Josh Pate thinks Michigan is getting it done against USC this week. Boy, I vehemently disagree, but that's okay. I will tell you why. Before I get to that, though, this is a curious thing that I noticed. So our good friends over at FanDuel, official sportsbook sponsor here at the network, set point spreads for every game. They also set over-unders for every game, as in the total amount of points that will be scored. The over-under in this game is 44.5. I'm just letting that sit there for a moment. A game with USC has got an over-under of 44.5. Here's why I love the Trojans in this game. Stop me if you have heard this one before. There's quarterback uncertainty with this Michigan team, and in comes a brilliant offensive mind to go up against Michigan's defense. Wait, now where have I seen? Oh, and by the way, that brilliant offensive mind's got a really good quarterback who's, mostly, not entirely, but mostly a pocket passer. Where have I seen that? Yes, it was a couple weeks ago. Now, is Texas a better overall team than USC? On paper, I think the answer to that question is yes. Is USC dramatically improved from a year ago? The answer to that question is also yes. Because the Trojans defensively, some people seem surprised by this. Whoa, USC was better on defense against LSU. I can't believe it. Really? Why? I can believe it. Because I watched what they did in the offseason. They brought in a former head coach from North Dakota State. They brought in a defensive line coach who was in the NFL. And they brought in a defensive coordinator who was clowning a very deep quarterback conference in the Pac-12 last year with UCLA's defense. Their offense wasn't very good, but their defense was phenomenal. So I don't know why people are surprised. So Michigan is trying to figure out its quarterback situation, and Alex Orji is going to get the start. I think that's the correct move for the Wolverines because you saw what Davis Warren was through the first 3 games. You saw it against Texas, it was bad. You saw it against Arkansas State, it was bad. It wasn't great in the first game. Nothing really looked that good. So making a change, it can't be worse in the passing game, and Orji is a much more dynamic runner. So I think that is the correct move from Sharon Moore and company. This is not the game that I would have made that change ahead of. I would feel better about Michigan in this spot if you had made that quarterback swap before Arkansas State, not after. Because then you'd have an opportunity to incorporate said quarterback and get a game under his belt and get used to having him making all the calls and running the offense. And also, I think this Michigan team is going to come out, and as I said before the season, just going to try to run the football. I don't think I'm breaking any news to Michigan fans there. They're going to try to run it. And I still believe, as I felt going into the Texas-Michigan game, if you take away the rushing attack from Michigan, there's no offense there. Other than Colston Loveland, who are you throwing the football to consistently? Is Alex Orji even able to deliver those sorts of passes consistently? I don't know. I haven't seen him really try. So if you've got quarterback questions, a defense that is clearly not on the same level it was a year ago, against a dynamic offense in USC that's got a red-hot quarterback in Miller Moss, I've got no confidence. And look, Pate thinks that Michigan's going to figure it out, and they're at home. The line shifted for a reason. But my score prediction here is reflective of what Vegas is seeing in that over-under. I saw LSU's defense give up a bunch of points to South Carolina. So is USC's offense on the same level as Texas? Probably not. Michigan's defense also made some adjustments in that second half. I think this is a much lower scoring game than you'd probably expect. The Wolverines are 5.5-point underdogs, which is pretty incredible because before the season you could have gotten USC plus 8.5. Now, if you want to bet the Trojans, you have to take the minus 5.5. That's one of the more dramatic shifts in a singular game's betting line that I can remember before we even start conference play. This is, of course, USC's first Big Ten conference game. But I think USC goes in, gets the win, 21-10. Yeah, there you go. Enjoy that score because that's what the Big Ten kind of deserves, isn't it? That's what Big Ten football is all about. That's what it wants and deserves, and I think they're going to get that in this game. Flip over to a Friday night contest, Nebraska, Illinois. This is a prove-it game. Nebraska is off to the exact start that I thought they would be, and Illinois is off to a better start than I thought they would be. Both teams are ranked inside the top 25, 23 and 24. This is going to be a fun Friday night matchup. I love Nebraska in this spot. Now, Illinois has surprised me. And many people, I'm sure. And Brett Bielema, I'm sure he's not shocked. But Luke Altmaier has suddenly become a really capable passer. Now, the word on him last year was that he turned the ball over too much, didn't complete a high percentage of his throws. Well, both those were very valid criticisms. He figured it out over the second half of last season, and now he's carried that over into the early part of this season. Pat Bryant, Zachary Franklin, one of whom I talked about in the offseason on this very show, they've been difference makers. They've been the go-to targets for Luke Altmaier, who is, stop me if you've heard this one before, guess what, you haven't, 69% completion, 6 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and 32 total rushing yards for an offense that's scoring 33 points a game. That's what Luke Altmaier has led this offense to through its first 3 contests, including a win against Kansas, which they deserve credit for, but I love Nebraska here. I love Nebraska in this spot because I'm high on the Cornhuskers. I love their defensive staff. Dylan Raiola has been exactly what Nebraska has needed at the quarterback position. Their defense, though, is going to be the biggest challenge that Luke Altmaier and company have gone up against so far this year. This Nebraska defense through 3 games is allowing 255 yards a game, 185 passing yards a game, and they've picked off opposing quarterbacks 4 times. It's been stout. It's been phenomenal. This game is in Lincoln, and the Nebraska offense has been really balanced. I absolutely love what I'm seeing from the Nebraska offense. They don't have the handcuffs on Dylan Raiola, but they're also not asking him to be the focal point. They're running for 170 yards a game. They're passing for 250. I love that balance for Nebraska. So I think at home, Nebraska gets this one done. I think this could be a solid football game. I think it could be competitive for a half. But I think Nebraska, behind that home crowd that has been yearning for a good team, I think they've got it. But the winner of this game is going to prove that they're finishing out of the middle of the Big Ten this year. And I think that is going to be Nebraska, as I thought it would be before this season started. Give me the Cornhuskers 31-21 over Illinois, and I might be a little bit generous toward the Illini's offense there. There's a real world in which they don't get to 20 points. Colorado, remember, went in there, they put up 10. That's not great. That is not great. And I think at the very least, Colorado has a more talented offense. At the very most, Colorado has a significantly more talented offense than Illinois. But this should be a fun football game to watch on a Friday. Before we get to Colorado, speaking of the Buffs, and the rest of our Big 12 picks, I'm just going to throw this out there for those who know and understand what I'm talking about. If you know, then you know. If you don't know, don't comment below because you won't understand. Give me San Jose State in an upset in Pullman this week. If you get it, you get it. That's all I'm going to say.